Welcome to Commission Ed, the Air Force Officer Podcast. Here we explore the training and development of America's leaders in the application of air power and the profession of arms. The views expressed are those of the hosts and do not reflect the official policy or position of the United States Air Force, Department of Defense, or the U.S. government.
Welcome back to another episode of Commission Ed, the Air Force Officer Podcast. I am Colin and I'd like to wish you a Merry Christmas. Today I am flying solo. You'll hear from Reed next week, as we wanted to record just a couple short episodes this week and next, so that you can spend more time with your family and also enjoying the time off if you are in school in between semesters, or if you are enjoying your holiday break. If not, if you are neither of those, if you are one of those airmen out there that is working on Christmas Day throughout the holidays, want you to know that we are aware of you. You are in our thoughts and prayers. We thank you for keeping our Air Force going and keeping the aircraft up in the skies. And if you are deployed, especially, we want to let you know that we are aware of you, thinking about you, and looking forward to when you come home. I'm recording on December 20th, and this is a special day for a couple of reasons. First off, the President of the United States has signed the NDAA that approves and officially launches Space Force. This is a big deal, and it's something that I'm sure Reed and I will discuss in future episodes as it relates to Air Force officership and how it may also affect or include Space Force officership. I'm sure that will yield some very interesting discussions. Also today, December 20th, 2019, marks the release of Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, the last episode in the Star Wars series. And let me tell you, I am a huge Star Wars fan. I have been my whole life. I love the original trilogy. I tolerated the prequel trilogy, and I enjoyed episodes 7 and 8 in the new trilogy, but I did not like episode 9. I'm not going to go into any detail on why I didn't like it. If you want to have that discussion with me, you can find me in our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Air Force Officer Podcast. I'm happy to have the debate there. But I don't want to ruin the movie here for anybody that hasn't seen it yet. So I'm going to keep my comments to myself, aside from the fact that, didn't like it, was sorely disappointed. I'm going to see it again tomorrow with my wife. Maybe I'll enjoy it a little bit more then, but we'll see. All right. So I want to share some thoughts with you about officership on this Christmas holiday. This is a time of season that people tend to like to watch a Christmas classic called It's a Wonderful Life that stars Jimmy Stewart. So Jimmy Stewart, you may or may not know, was actually a brigadier general in the United States Air Force Reserve. He joined the Army Air Corps in 1941 at the beginning of World War II and received his commission as a second lieutenant in 1942. He was a pilot, and over the course of the war, he was promoted quite frequently and quite quickly, eventually reaching the rank of full colonel in 1945. He was one of the few Americans to go from being a private all the way to colonel in only 4 years. That's unheard of now because of laws like DOTMA and ROTMA, which we discussed in a previous episode on how Air Force officers are promoted. But I think that is a testament to Jimmy Stewart, his leadership, his officership, and the role that he played in the Army Air Corps and Army Air Force at the time, and then later as an officer in the Air Force Reserve. So in addition to It's a Wonderful Life, Jimmy Stewart was in a movie called Strategic Air Command that it's not the best of movies. I mean, it was pretty good for its time, but I think it's a good movie for you to watch, especially if you are in the Air Force or considering a career in the Air Force as an officer. Strategic Air Command, it's part of our history, and I think this movie does a pretty good job of showing what life is like as an Air Force officer even today. So I would encourage you to watch it, and I took some notes as I watched it recently, and I want to share them with you, encourage you to look for these lessons, these principles of Air Force officership as you watch it. So the first one is that when duty calls, you answer, no matter the situation. I'm not going to give you the context because I want you to go watch the movie and see it for yourself, but understand that no matter what you are dealing with or what your goals are, if you are an officer, no matter what your personal goals are or what's going on in your life, if you are an officer in the Air Force, you have a responsibility to help execute the mission on behalf of the Air Force. My next thought about this movie is that it shows quite a bit about what spouses go through, especially if you are in Air Force operations as an aviator or some other sort of high tempo, high demand, high intensity type career field. Being in that type of career field is going to have a dramatic impact on your spouse. I mean, even if you're not in operations, the Air Force is still going to have an impact on your spouse and your family. So as you watch this movie, pay close attention to the relationship between Air Force officers and their spouses. I think it's telling. In this movie, this is, like I said, about Strategic Air Command, which was known for no-notice exercises. They wanted to ensure the readiness of the airmen within the command, and so there would often be these no-notice exercises. And you'll see in the movie that the exercise didn't go well. And there's a major who blames the poor performance on his other people. Now, obviously, that's not something that we want our officers to do, but is something that you're going to see frequently. That there are officers in the Air Force that when things don't go well, they're going to blame it on other people. I encourage you to not be that type of officer. You also see in this movie the importance of knowing the job that your people are doing so that you can be aware of what they are going through and what they're capable of. And you want to be in a position where you are able to defend your people when necessary. You want to make sure that you understand their job well enough so that if things go wrong, you can defend them, or if it's required, you can provide the necessary discipline to them. Now, that's never a fun thing to do, to have to discipline your people, but it's one of your responsibilities as an officer to hold your people to the standard so that they are best able to execute the mission. Now, if they're not able to execute the mission, you need to first take a look at yourself. What's going on with your leadership of those airmen? Have you provided them with the organization, training, and equipment needed to properly execute the mission? And if you have, what is it about the airmen that is limiting their ability to be successful? In this movie, you'll also see officers need to remain calm under pressure. There will come a time when things don't go your way. Whether you are up in the air in an aircraft and you are dealing with some sort of in-flight emergency, or if you're on the ground and you're dealing with a personnel issue, or find yourself in combat of some sort, or it's just another Monday morning, regardless of the situation, no matter what the source of the stress is, you need to remain calm, cool, and collected so that you're able to think logically and make a sound decision about how to lead your people and execute the mission. Another thing that's important from this movie is that you understand the importance of taking full responsibility for the outcome of the mission, no matter the outcome. Good or bad, success or failure, you as the officer are ultimately responsible for the execution of the mission. So you need to take ownership of that. You need to take ownership of your people, take full responsibility no matter what happens. One thing that you'll see from this movie, because of the operations tempo and similar to what life is like in the Air Force, is that there will be births and birthdays, holidays, and other important milestones, and you're not going to be there. That is certainly a poignant thing to consider on this Christmas holiday and across the holiday break, is that there are people right now who are away from their families because they made the choice to serve their country, and their country needed them to be someplace else at the moment. That may be you right now, and thank you for making that sacrifice on our behalf. Or it may be you in the future, or you may find that one day you are in a position of responsibility as an officer, position of authority, where you have to send somebody to spend time away from their family so that they miss those births or those holidays or those important milestones. Last thing that I want to share with you from the movie Strategic Air Command is that decisions should never be made alone. Yes, you as an officer, especially if you are in a position of command, are responsible for the decisions. But that doesn't mean that you should make that decision in a vacuum, that you shouldn't include other people in those decisions, especially if that decision is related to your career, the development of your career. I highly encourage you to include your spouse, your children if you have them, any other stakeholders in your life, people who care about you and your success and growth, your happiness. I highly encourage you to share your thoughts with them before you make a decision and act on it. So those are some things that I took away from Strategic Air Command. I am interested to know what your thoughts are about that movie and what you learn about Air Force officership. And if you want to discuss Jimmy Stewart and his life and his career as an officer in the Air Force Reserve, happy to do that as well. Again, you can join us and have that discussion in our Facebook group. So with that, just some thoughts about Air Force officership on this Christmas holiday. Hope that you are all well. Hope that you are all with family or people that you enjoy. And we're looking forward to spending some more time with you in the new year. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you for listening to Commission Ed, the Air Force Officer Podcast. The views and opinions of the authors expressed herein do not state or reflect those of the U.S. government and shall not be used for advertising or product endorsement purposes. Mention of any specific commercial products, process, or service by trade name, trademark, manufacturer, or otherwise does not necessarily constitute nor imply its endorsement, recommendation, or favoring by the U.S. government. The mention of companies by name is solely for the purpose of discussion and should not be implied as endorsement.